Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone sends and shares with me. From the Cora, I appreciate every one of you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the video just to allow the message to get out a little further. Gracias. Well, everyone, getting into what I want to talk on today, right? And I think it goes with what we're seeing a lot everywhere, you know, and that's mostly everyone trying to judge people by prison standards, which, in a sense is ridiculous, but you hear a lot, peseta, debriefer, this, and that I understand there's a lot of people that just don't comprehend that, you know, and it's understandable. But it's gonna circle around a camarada from Coachella, Psycho from Avenues, and just basically that more so nowadays, just don't know who you're walking next to or who's close to you, and start off with advice, right? People tend to come out regardless. What I mean is if they're liars, they're dirty people in a lot of senses, and the best thing to do is just give them or or tell them, give me 5 feet, stay away. That's my best advice out here, right? Now on the prison code, it just is what it is, People have the misconception that you can't be respectful on YouTube, but we go back if we want to measure by pictures, prison standards. You can't do that inside either. You can't wolf behind a cell because that will be your neck. In order to make peace with your neighbors, period. They're in good, they're in bad standings, they're norteños, they're woods, you know, they're black, whatever they may be. You to have a peaceful uh, interaction with them, period. Respectful. That's the key word here, respect. I say that to say, a lot of people confuse, and it's the lack of understanding PC behaviors that, again, they're prison, right? Or no good behaviors with respect. But anyways, sorry I rambled on, and I want to take you back to 2008, nine, somewhere there. For those that have been with me for a long time, know, throughout my whole state career, on and off, I supported Terco from Bassett, and Terco had a seat in Kern Valley in the 180, right? This is after Sneaks, right? And I don't know how a vato from SD from Lomita or something to that effect, right? They call him Spanx, and he took over for Terco there, right? The seat. In his seat, he had somebody helping him. This is the era or the time where squat was being real difficult. They were validating everybody for no reason. All they look for is your name in a kite, your name on a birthday thing, or your name come up in a conversation, right? to give you a strike to validate you. So we were being extra careful, right? More so, what I'm stating is if someone was trusted, like in this case by Terco, right, to the homie from SD to represent him on the yard, he was allowing them to pick his crew, read through his paperwork, and basically instead of putting names, just say, hey, so and so, he clears, he's all good. And if his name was up here, he would get a reply. If not, we would leave it alone, right? That's how we were basically addressing things to at least try to cover some things from the squad. You know, more so up there in the bay, they screen everything. You know, and excuse me. Anyways, things went on, and as you guys know, at one point there was war on that yard. A lot of misunderstanding between Terco's people and artists. Well, same thing happened with Turi when he came into play. For some reason, current that 180 was making good cheese, right? Good money, and it was being fought. The snaky way, of course. Behind the scenes, nothing directly. It was basically soldados were being directed to take out homies for no reason, remove them from the yard, to cripple the next Billy and allow the one Billy to flourish more, to get more, you know. And I honestly say I was part of it. I knew it was happening, and when addressing things up there in the bay with T, it was like, oh, well, so and so, they're answering to so and so, you know, and they're doing too good. So let's try to figure something out. And without no more palabras, I knew was to address where it was representing that jardín for T to tell him to start doing wiggles on so and so and get him off the yard. With no reason, none at all. It was just politics. Again, politics, as we call it, it stands for us moving on our own people, right? And basically washing them up for no reason, pencil whooping, whatever it took, right? It was part of, they gave you the order, you had to, you know, take to the order to the fullest. Anyways, this Vato Spanx, he wouldn't last for some reasons. And the Vato from, from Coachella, excuse me, he would end up taking control, right? Now, when he took control, it was a respect thing. It's always like that. You don't want to leave that seat open, so you always shoot to a pili. Hey, I'm here. So and so is being given clecha to in case a jag comes for me, he will hold down the seat for you. So I was left at that, right? Now, keep in mind, names don't mean anything. I met so many homies that, for many reasons, some were justified, right? But some weren't, that on the street they were known by something, and inside they were called something else. you know, and most of the time was because they had something to hide. A lot of vatos were taking advantage of how the system was being ran by some pilis, and they were skating by to the point where they were being given responsibilities, right? But anyways, as we went along, basically what happened, it was amongst family. You know, Psycho got the word from somebody that was on the yard from Avenues, that was from his family, and he told him, hey, so and so that this Billy has in charge here is this individual that caused your jefita to get arrested or looked into, or whatever, right? Crippled a lot of things he had going in Coachella. You know, and I don't want to push shade on the Billy's mom because I'm just not like that, right? But that was one of Psycho's strongest pillars, right? To say it like that. And whatever happened between them, I wasn't aware of it like that firsthand. I just knew it's a lot of things hit the fan, right? In the sense of a recall. And then when T basically said, hey, send someone else that's on the yard that's trustworthy and try to get his last name and stuff so he could be looked into. That way we don't have an hermano of mine saying he's this, and that, right? Because basically that's an open door for Psycho to hold something against Terco, you know? And that's all they're really looking for, to be sincere. If we go after their own, they definitely do too, you know? But, anyways, we would end up sending another camarada out there. He was from Indio, the area where this vato was from. And he got close to him, like to the point where eventually the vato from Indio, uh, little one, or something to that effect, he would answer Shukai back, that his real name was Chucks, or Chucks, or Chucky. His last name was Huerta, right from Coachella. And when we got the full name, we sent it to Psycho, and definitely this was individual that got cracked under an investigation that was heavy in Coachella, and he has spoken too much. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, they basically he sent negative vibes towards Psycho's mom, Psycho, and the whole little crew that he was running for Psycho on the streets. Of course, he got busted. He changed his name, his placazo, really, right? Because the paper, your name's gonna be on it, and things got handled. It was giving respect to Psycho to send his soldados or family that was on the yard to deal with that situation, and they did. But at the same time, little, would you say little, from Indio, he didn't have the proper clecha. Terco basically didn't trust nobody on the yard, and I for sure wasn't going to speak for nobody because you're seeing this was happen. You could know somebody real cool yesterday or the day before, but today they got some skeletons that are hiding. You know, they have something shady, and you can't know that because we're slammed in the shoe. I consider, for example, my whole neighborhood as friends, right? Hermanos. I love every single one of them. But I'm sitting up in Pelican Bay, and unfortunately, I'm the first generation. Not every camarada knows who I am or is in touch with me. So there's going to be a lot of things that I'm not aware of. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of people skate by, some purposely, and some, like this individual, trying to be smart. The point is, he got dealt with, right? He got dealt with, and we're speaking about an individual that actually told on a whole bunch of people from Coachella. He got on the stand and tried to wash up Psycho's mom. And needless to say, he tried to get Psycho, but slammed down. Lifer already in the bay. They weren't really moving us no more. And he skated by. From the point, or from the time I heard of him being there to he grabbed full control for Terco, it was a 2 year span. And that's where I go. You just don't know who's who, right? I always say, there's always snakes disguised as something. You gotta always allow them to choke on themselves. But anyways, they took care of him. Terco would end up deciding, you know what, we're gonna leave that alone. Unless you have something that I honestly said, no, I don't know nobody that's there that's trustworthy. And cause believe me, I got my ears smacked back because I was the one answering to Kern Valley and passing the message over here in the Bay. So I'm not gonna say he blamed me for everything, cause that was the homie from San Diego's era, right? But I still got, you know, my ears smacked back, if you guys get it. So that was the end of that. From now on, if IGI caught things, oh well. But that look couldn't be no more on the yard from somebody no good representing a senor. It went across the board, right? And I remember I question is, what about them individuals that are under a Pili's wing, that are walking right now the main line, that are known rapists, child molesters, or even rats at one point, but they're paying a carnal, so they're hands off. And that wasn't even up for an argument. You know, everything was still going to stay the same. They were going to be allowed to walk the yard, and it was something that at least wasn't up for a discussion with me, if you guys get it. And we left it at that. But that's exactly that. I want to say in my time, I ran across battles like that in Ironwood, in Solano, Tehachapi, and Corcoran. Nevertheless, never to say the vatos I ran across that had charges like that in Pelican Bay, they were pilis, they were senores running the whole Ramfla. That's why I say just don't trust nobody. Trust somebody as far as you can pick them up and throw them. And that includes me. It's just best always to have your guard up than to not have it and allow people to get in like that. But anyways, this would end up happening. Do excuse me, I don't. This was otro Amapil, so the names are. I know on the streets he was Chucky from Coachella, His last name 100% was Huerta, though, you know. And when he told and everything was in 2007, shortly before all this happened. And it was against Psycho, as many of you guys know, and as have I spoken, Psycho, Colabella, Ectec, all that area, Coachella Valley, Imperial Valley, all that is them, right? But anyways, this was just an end look on how even in prison, nobody knows who's who. The other day, somebody in a comment was making fun of something I said on a live. It's just funny how so many people they despise me, report my channel, or they never watch me, but they're always aware of everything that happens in my life, right? Or the next day, something I get asked on a live, it becomes a video of theirs, you know. But that don't matter. Again, YouTube, it is what it is, right? But I said I'm living like I'm back in the shoe, and it's facts. In the shoe, we have a steel door in front of us. We're never gonna be able to touch another individual. So it's against our guidelines, norteños, and everyone's really to wolf at that door. There's always those funny individuals, right? That are straight PCs that are gonna wolf at their neck like there's no tomorrow. But believe me, overall, being PC active or being from a different fashion, you will never get judged as long as you keep it respectful with your neighbors. And that's how I see YouTube. Respect goes back and forth, right? At the end of the day, you can't touch nobody. So what's the point? But to be a soldado behind a screen, be careful with that. Because you never know who's watching. You never know the wiggles of life, the turns that's going to happen, you know. But again, at all times, just stay true to your beliefs. Me personally, I think that's the biggest factor, in the free world. Is stay true to yourself, to what you believe in, and how people to be. I understand that measuring stick only applies to prison, but you could take one thing, finesse it, put it in a stage on your belief, and measure things by that. That's part of knowing the circle of life, right? But again, that was the end. Look, there is no such thing as everybody solid. Not even on a GP jar, sorry to say it. And take it from an idiot that I went in with double murder. I came out the same way I went in. Mexican jails, everything. And I seen a lot of shady stuff without throwing dirt on any type of cause, especially the one I was involved in, right? My respects. I guess I'm just trying to say be smart, stay true to yourself, and loyal to loved ones. Do excuse if the machine is too loud, and if I don't make sense, it's the oxygen machine, and I just had chemo, right? My mind's still not steady. Blessings to everybody. My love and prayers as well. Buenas noches.
Tu gracia triunfó.